I should have done all this before I started recording. Oh, come here. In the front. Come here. Up. Do this so we can get it out of the way. This is Frank, everybody. He's going to make noise for the whole video. What? Hi, love. I get it. Yes, you're famous now. Okay, so we have maybe like 5 minutes before my dog decides to come bother me again. And in that 5 minutes, hello, my name is Jeremy. This is Red Means Recording. And today I want to talk to you about gear, buying it, and why you should not do that. And yeah, look at me. I got all this stuff here. Why am I telling you not to buy gear? Well, because as most people in my position, I have reached a point of not really wanting anything else. In fact, I want to get rid of most of what I have. You know how it works. And I want to explain why, and I want to share this mindset with you so that you can make better decisions about your purchases or not purchases. And as an added bonus, we're going to talk about when it's okay to post your new synthesizer purchase to Reddit, which I think is really what most of you are interested in, right? I mean, that's the good shit. That's what a dopamine hit really just slams you right in the head. So here's the pipeline. A new piece of gear gets announced. Everyone starts speculating. Everyone starts wildly speculating about what it's going to be, what it's going to do, etc., etc. Next up, we got the release date. A bunch of YouTubers make videos on it in various ways. Everyone complains about all the YouTubers that are making the videos. Next step, because of those demos, people will go out and buy the thing. And that right there is where we need to take a little bit of a pause. Because a lot of the times, and I'm part of this pipeline, at least I was, when a YouTuber is asked to make a video on a piece of gear, we have a couple different ways that we can do it. We can do an explanation of how the piece of gear works. We can make a piece of music with the piece of gear. We can do a sort of combination of both. We can also give our quote-unquote honest opinion about the piece of gear. Honest opinions are probably third on our list of what we're going to be doing with the piece of gear. In that, I think that generally negativity is frowned upon in these videos because we do have a relationship to maintain with the manufacturer. That's not true for everybody. I don't want to speak for everybody, but I know from personal experience that I rarely say negative things about pieces of gear that I do videos about. Now, I also don't do videos about pieces of gear that I don't find interesting, that I don't find useful, and I have actually gotten pieces of gear from major manufacturers that I just didn't do videos on because I thought it was messed up and I didn't think it was worth talking about. It takes a lot of time to learn a piece of gear and show it off to you in a way that makes sense. And I don't got that much time. So let's say that you saw somebody make something cool with this thing and they talked about the features of it and you're like, ooh, I want to buy that. That seems real fun. That's when you're going to pause and you're going to say, okay, I've seen what this thing can do in the hands of a very specific person. They've mentioned some features. I have projected myself into either the music performance that they made and I want to be able to do that, or I've projected myself into the features that have been mentioned, and I think that that's going to do something for me that I don't already have in my studio. Point one. The people that are making music with these pieces of gear on like day one drops and stuff like that, it's their job. Like they're putting decades of musical experience behind the demos that you're seeing on that day one drop or any of the promoted videos that you're seeing. So you're going to get the piece of gear, but you're not going to get the quote unquote talent that goes along with that. It's a pretty simple concept, but a lot of people seem to miss it as a truth. Okay. So you can't buy Andrew Huang's musical ability. You can't buy Mylar Melody or Div Kid's knowledge of modular and music and the way that they're able to patch and create things out of these modules and pieces of gear that sound cool and evocative. You can't do it. So that's the first thing that you got to pause and ask yourself, what am I actually reacting to? Am I reacting to the device, or am I reacting to the potential of this device in someone's hands who has talent that is either above mine or different than mine, okay? Because context is really important. So take a breath, take a pause, and now it's time to do some research. We probably have a basic idea via the demos of the device that we've seen and the features and specs that have been told to us through videos. But now it's time to go and heavily research the device technically, because there's a lot of stuff you can say about a device that doesn't actually translate to how it will fit into your workflow. And what I mean by that is let's say you're looking for something that can do time stretching and stereo sampling and slicing. This is a really, really common ask in a sampler. All right, well, there's a couple things that can do that. The Deluge can do that. The Octatrack can do that. I'm assuming that the MPCs can do that. Ableton can do that. But that's just like one dry spec. It doesn't actually talk about the workflow surrounding that. So the Octatrack, for instance, yeah, it can do all those things. But would I recommend an Octatrack to you based on just those needs? Absolutely not. No, I would not. No, I would not. So you need to sort of dig into the device's implementation of the features that you think it has. And the manual is a really, really great place to do that. If it's an older device, you have all the resources in the world to go and look up what people have been talking about it for a very long time. You can go find forum posts. I would generally take everything that you read from forum posts with a grain of salt. A lot of people like to just sort of complain about things, especially like on places like Reddit and Electronauts. Holy moly, it's some toxic shit, okay? So you got to wade through a lot of crap. But if the manual is approachable, please go read the manual. It's not going to work for something like the Octatrack, unfortunately, because the manual is absolutely impenetrable. But there are lots of devices where you can skip around, read about how it does what it does, and hopefully get a much more clear understanding of how this device will work. You can actually envision yourself using it. So we have, does it musically or sonically sound like what we want it to? And will it actually technically do what we want it to? And both of those questions obviously are predilected by what are you looking for? Like, are you looking for something to fill a particular niche in your studio? Are you just looking for a new toy? Are you just consuming? Because I think we've gotten to the point now with synthesizers and synth-related accessories and modular, where we're literally just chomping it up. We're hungry hippos, baby. You're like Pac-Man and you just ate a power pill and you just want to eat all the ghosts, and the ghosts are modules or they are little desktop synths, and you've been doing this for like 5 days now because you just took some meth too, and you're just like, you can't stop. You're just like, stop it. Whether or not you realize it, we are all in the throes of consumer capitalism, and every single device that comes out is being marketed to us in a way that knows what we want, knows that we want to buy things, and you just need to slow the fuck down. Because this brings me to my sort of last and maybe most important point outside of when to post to Reddit. I'll promise I'll get to that. But that is that if you buy a whole ton of stuff, you're not going to actually make anything. And there's a couple reasons for that. I see a lot of people who will buy a bunch of MIDI gear and then want to hook it all together because they think that's the solution to their problem. It's not. It's a pain in the ass to do that. It's a pain in the ass to use that. It's just too much shit. It's going to constantly distract your brain as to which tool you should be reaching for. It's just not good for you as a creative. Do not do that. The same goes for like these little like desktop synth things like the Soft Pop or the Lemon Drop or other sort of like little kind of like toy synths like the Pocket Operators, obviously. But I'm talking about these like single serving little devices that like do one thing, like they act as one voice, and they do it in a very particular way. No piece of music that you have ever consumed that you love is made with like one little synthesizer and that's it. Like, link it to me in the description if it is. If you've got a piece of music out there that's like made with a single subtractive synthesizer voice and a sequencer that like you love, send it to me. But most people are going to need a lot more voices and a lot more sequencing and stuff like that and effects in order to make music that sounds like what they want music to sound like. And you're not going to get there by buying a bunch of bullshit. You're not going to get there by buying a bunch of shit that like looks shiny on YouTube and say, okay, well, I got all this stuff now. I should be able to make music. No, you've just dug yourself into a big old hole. You've dug yourself into a big stupid hole. And now you think you have to use all this gear, but you don't, because it won't even get you anywhere near. I'm ranting, dog. Can you please chill out? It's not going to get you where you want to go. So for your sake, like I said, it takes time to learn these things. It takes energy. For your sake, do not buy a bunch of shit and try to hook it all together and then say, I'm now going to make the next Caribou album. You're not. You're not going to make anything that sounds like anything that you have heard on your playlists and stuff like that. So that's something that you can actually do as a way to check yourself. If you are a fan of music and a fan of making music and you want to buy something, you need to have been listening to music in such a way that you can listen to a composition that you like and say, hey, here are the things going on in this piece of music. Here's what I have. And if I got this, it would be able to do this in this piece of music. And if the answer isn't something very specific or like very like broad, meaning that it will work for a lot of things, don't buy the piece of gear. Like, it's not going to fit into your workflow because it doesn't offer you anything in the kind of music that you actually want to make. Just take a step back for just a second, okay? Please, just for all of our sake, please. I think I've said everything I had to say about that. Let's go ahead and recap before we get to the Reddit stuff. I promise I'll make this quick. People online are putting a lot of clout and a lot of experience and a lot of practice into showing you how devices work. They're making cool jams. They've got music theory under their belt. They've been playing with synthesizers for years. So you need to get past the fog of that. Then you need to get past the fog of what the specs look like in a bullet point list and dig into the actual workflow of the device and how it implements those things. Because there might be a little gotcha in the manual that you're like, oh no, that's not at all what I want this to be like. And it's important to know that. Like, workflow is very, very important. And finally, the more stuff that you buy, the more your brain will be distracted by all of it in the studio, and you will actually get less done if you have all the gear in there. There's one last final exception to this, and it does dovetail into the when you should post your synth to Reddit. If you just have like either infinite money or you don't really care about finishing tracks, like you're just having fun, none of this really applies to you. It's if you actually want to finish music that this all applies to you. And so I don't want to talk shit about people that are like, I'm just in this to like noodle. Like, that's fine. Anyone that actually wants to finish music, then you're going to need to develop a sort of rigorous mental workflow, not only related to buying gear, but also to your creative process. This is all part of that discipline, okay? Now, finally, point you've all been waiting for. When do I get to post my new synthesizer picture to Reddit? Okay, let's start at the top. If you have infinite money and you just don't care and you're just noodling, you can post your synthesizer to Reddit the moment you get it unpacked and hooked up. Do not post your synth to Reddit with no power cables and no audio cables plugged into it. It's very, very important that you at least hook it up. That's the only rule if it's just like a fun, frivolous purchase to you. If it's not a fun, frivolous purchase, if it's more of a utilitarian or like you actually plan on using it, you need to go through all the stuff that we talked about before. And then when you get to the point after like a month, where you say, I'm going to sell this on Reverb. I'm not going to sell this on Reverb. I'm going to sell this on Reverb. I'm not going to sell this on Reverb. And you finally sit down and you learn it and like you actually like, wow, this is cool. Then you can post your synth to Reddit. Again, it needs to have power and audio cables plugged into it. Those are the two things right there. Those are the two ways that you can post your synthesizer to Reddit. But you don't get to post it unless you have infinite money or you've spent a lot of time with it. That sounds really bad. That's pretty classist, isn't it? I'm going to revise this. So we'll start at the top again. When can I post my synthesizer to Reddit? Never.